garden. There on the ground she saw a beast lifeless. As she ran to the beast, he cried, "Oh, Belle, you had broken my heart, and I shall die without you." The next morning, Belle woke up and rushed towards Alex. She went to the castle. She rushed to his side. She held him in the cold, wet rain. "No, no, please, you can't die. Please don't leave me. I love you," she whispered and held him even tighter. Suddenly, a beam of light fell from the sky like a shooting star and landed on the beast. A magical change was happening. When the glow disappeared, the beast transformed back into a young, handsome prince. In time, the happy couple were married. Belle's love had broken the enchantress spell. Belle loved the beast for what he was within. Belle and the beast lived happily ever after. So, the moral value of the story is, do not judge a book by its cover. That's all. Thank you.
A very good morning to the honorable adjudicators, teachers, and all my fellow friends. Today, I'm going to tell you a story entitled The Tailor and the Prince. There was once a young tailor named Labakan. He was a good and hard-working workman, but he liked to put on airs as if he were a prince. This habit of his caused amusement among the people. One day, the Sultan's brother sent his state robe to the master tailor to be altered. The master tailor passed it to Labakan to do the work. In the evening, when everyone had left, Labakan gazed at the splendid robe for a long time. At last, he tried it on and it fitted him very well. He walked up and down the room proudly, feeling as noble as any prince. He decided to set out at once and look for a better position. That night, he started collecting all his belongings and crept out of the city. Everyone who saw Labakan on the road thought it strange for a splendidly dressed man to walk on foot. So he bought a horse and rode on. Soon after, a young horseman caught up with him and asked him if they could ride together and keep each other company. The friendly young man said his name was Omar and was on his way to meet his father for the first time. On the second day of their journey, Labakan learned that Omar was really the son of a great king who had 20 years ago left him in the care of a good friend, Alfie Bey, to keep him out of danger. Omar showed him a dagger given to him by Alfie Bey, saying, "When I reach the pillars where I am to meet my father, I will show him this dagger and say, 'I'm the one you seek.'" Labakan grew very envious of Omar, angry that his companion should get the position he desired so much. That night, Labakan could not sleep as cruel plans formed in his head. At the break of dawn, Labakan took the dagger away from the prince's belt and saddled away Omar's better horse. After 2 days, he came to the great pillars on top of a hill and waited. Later in the day, he saw a group of nobly dressed men approaching the pillars. The dishonest Labakan went to the most magnificently dressed man, knelt before him and said, I'm the one you seek. With tears in his eyes, he embraced him, calling out, my dear son, Just then, the real Prince Omar arrived at the hilltop and shouted, "Stop! That man is an impostor! I am Prince Omar!" The king and his men were speechless, while Labakan quickly said, "My dear father, do not pay any attention to this man. He is a mad tailor from Alexandria named Labakan." The king ordered his guards to tie up Prince Omar in the dungeon while they continued their journey to meet the queen. The queen was waiting to see her long-lost son, but when she saw Labakan led into the room by the king, she did not feel that was her son. When she saw the prisoner, she cried out and said, That is my son! Even though my eyes have never seen him before, my heart recognizes him. The king denied the queen, as Labakan was the one who brought the dagger from Alfie Bay. The queen walked away sadly and asking advices from her oldest and wisest ladies. Her oldest and wisest ladies formed a plan, and the queen asked the king about the plan. The king agreed. The two young men were placed into separate rooms and were given a piece of cloth and a sewing kit. They were asked to make a kaftan for the queen within 3 days. After the 3rd day, the king and the queen asked them to show their kaftan. Labakan proudly showed his beautifully made kaftan, while Prince Omar just threw the pieces of cloth onto the floor and said, "This is not what a prince like me does." The queen whispered to the king, "Didn't you see who is the prince and who is the tailor?" The king was not satisfied. He rode off to a forest and asked a fairy there to help him find out the truth. The fairy gave him 2 ivory boxes, one with a lid saying wealth and happiness and another saying honor and glory. The fairy said, "Ask the 2 young men to pick either one of these boxes and you will find out the truth then." The king rushed to the castle, called his queen and his courtmen to the courtroom. He placed the 2 boxes in front of the 2 young men and asked them to pick either one. Labakan chose the one with the lid saying wealth and happiness, while Prince Omar chose the one with the lid saying honor and glory. They both opened their boxes. Labakan found that he had a large needle and thread, while Prince Omar had a tiny little golden crown. The fake prince was identified at last. Labakan begged for forgiveness to the prince, and the prince readily forgave him. He thought that Labakan should be given a chance in life. He felt that he would repent and change. He only needed love and support. Omar was truly a prince with high moral standards who would make a fine king one day. Meanwhile, when the king took the crown, it grew bigger and bigger till it was as large as a real crown. He then placed it on Prince Omar's head, and everyone cheered, "Long live Prince Omar! Long live Prince Omar!" quickly, Labakan realized all his wrongdoings and decided to earn an honest living. So he sold the ivory box to a jeweler for a good price and opened a tailoring shop. He became more realistic and accepted his fate with an open mind. The problems that he had faced made him think that respect comes with a good conduct and one has to earn that respect. He felt that he was now ready to work hard and to make an honest living. Dear friends, from this beautiful story, we have learned that our actions and attitudes control our lives. In order to have a positive attitude, we must have a healthy mind. Thank you for listening.
I won't tell lies anymore. I won't pretend to know something when I really don't anymore. Friends, who is she? Yes, she is the character in my story. Good morning, Madam Chairperson, esteemed timekeeper, honorable judges, teachers, and my dear friends. Today, I am going to tell you a story entitled Little Miss Know-All. Once, there lived a little girl called Lily. She was quite a spoiled child who was bossy and liked to have things her way. Whenever she sees other children doing something, she would go over and teach them how to do it her way. Whenever anyone asks a question, Lily would be the first to provide an answer, and she would insist that her answer was the correct one. All the children in Lily's class were tired of her. They called her Miss Know-All and avoided playing with her. Lily reasoned, I know just about everything, and they're jealous of me. One day, the children's art teacher told them to draw a character from their favorite bedtime story. I will give this nice packet of chocolates to the one with the most beautiful drawing, she said. The children immediately set to work. Lily drew a mermaid with long golden hair and a blue tail. She hurried through her work and finished very quickly. Then she turned her attention to the boy sitting next to her. His name was Tommy. What are you drawing, Tommy? Lily asked. A fairy. Tommy answered, proudly showing his half-finished picture of a lovely fairy with a pair of silver wings and wearing pink flower petals. What story is she from? Lily asked, staring hard at Tommy's drawing. She's the fairy from all fairy tales. Tommy answered, you don't have the same fairies in all fairy tales. Lily said, they are quite different, I tell you. Tommy frowned. You don't know that? Oh yes, I do. Lily insisted. And you're drawing the fairy wrong too. Her hair should be golden, not brown, and her wings are blue, not silver. I shall draw the fairy the way I want to, Lily, Tommy said, continuing with his work. You don't know anything about the fairy. I'm telling you, you're drawing the fairy wrong, Lily cried, snatching the drawing away from Tommy. Her hair is golden, her wings are blue, and her dress isn't made out of flower petals. Give that back to me, Miss Know-All, Tommy said. It's my drawing. How dare you call me that? Lily cried angrily. You shall pay for that. She took a colored pencil and drew all over Tommy's drawing. Soon, the two were screaming and pinching each other. The teacher stopped the children from fighting, but there was nothing she could do about Tommy's ruined fairy drawing. Lenny was forced to apologize, which she did reluctantly. How silly is that boy, she thought. He hasn't the slightest idea what a fairy looks like, and he wouldn't listen to my advice. She was scowling as she walked home, because she didn't think it was necessary to say sorry to Tommy. An old man with long white hair and beard saw Lenny and exclaimed, "My, what a lovely girl, but what a sour expression on her face." Lenny turned to look at him. He was smiling at her with a twinkle in his eye. "What seems to be troubling you, little girl?" "My classmate Tommy doesn't have the slightest idea what a fairy looks like, and he wouldn't listen when I tried to tell him. On top of that, he called me Miss Know-all." Lenny said, "I agree it was rude of him," the old man said. "But do you really know how a fairy looks?" "Of course I do," Lenny said heartily. "I know just about everything." "Well," the old man said, "if you do know how a fairy looks, then you must have seen one." Of course, Lenny had never seen a fairy, but she was too proud to admit that. "Yes," she said. "She had golden hair and a pair of blue wings." "I don't think so, little girl," the old man said. "I think she has brown hair and silver wings, and she loves to wear flower petals, especially pink ones." Lenny was surprised to hear what the old man had said, because that was exactly how Tommy's drawing had been. "That's not true," Lenny cried. "You don't know how a fairy looks." "How about we look for her?" the old man suggested. "Then we shall see what she really looks like." Lenny was too surprised to answer. She didn't quite believe that fairies actually existed. The old man took a few steps towards a bed of tall flowers that Lenny didn't remember ever seeing before. "If we look closely, little girl, you shall soon see a real fairy," the old man said. True enough, Lenny heard a soft voice singing beautifully. Then, among the flowers, she saw the most curious creature she had never seen. It was no taller than a few inches, with long flowing brown hair, a pair of glistering silver wings, and was wearing pink flower petals. It was a fairy. Lenny was speechless. The old man looked at her and said, "There, you said you have seen a fairy, but it was not true. You said you knew how a fairy looks, and it was also not true." What happened, friends? The title of my story is Little Miss Know-all. Let me continue my story. "No," Lenny sobbed. "I won't tell lies anymore. I won't pretend to know something when I really don't anymore." "Remember what you said, little girl," the old man said. Then he vanished with the mysterious little fairy. Lenny never found out who the old man was or where the fairy had gone, but she changed her ways. She became a humble
and sensible child, whom the other children no longer called Miss Know-All. Dear friends, the moral of this story is, we must not pretend to know everything. Be humble. Thank you, friends. Have a nice day.
A very good morning, I greet to the honorable panel of judges, teachers, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would like to share with you an interesting story entitled Old Grimbolly, the Meanest Bully. Old Grimbolly was rich, indeed, very rich. However, he needed to be taught a lesson or two. He was a horribly mean bully. Old Grimbolly always thought of many cruel ways to torture his servants until they were forced to live without getting paid for all their hard work. Whenever his servants made mistakes, Old Grimbolly would cut off their ears, fingers, or toes as punishment. One by one, his servants could no longer take the torture, so they left at their own will without receiving any pay. Soon, Old Grimbolly had no servant to work for him. He had to put up a notice at the front door of his mansion. Servants wanted, must work hard, must obey all my orders, do not demand for pay. One day, a poor little girl called Tinnerly saw the notice. She had traveled far to find work. She was so hungry and tired, so she knocked on the door. Old Grimbolly opened the door and looked down at the little girl. With a shivering voice, Tinnerly said, I'm looking for work, sir. Old Grimbolly was very glad to see Tinnerly. Now he had a servant to bully again. Mean Old Grimbolly came up with an idea to make Tinnerly's life difficult. He invented new words for Tinnerly to remember. Don't call me sir. Call me my grandest, wealthiest, mightiest, master of all empires in the whole wide world, said Old Grimbolly. Yes, sir. I mean, yes, my grandest, wealthiest, mightiest, master of all empires in the whole wide world, said Tinnerly. Now, go and cook me a chicken. But you do not say the word chicken. You must say chuckaroo, yum yum, cluck cluck. If you forget the words, I will cut off your ears, said Old Grimbolly. Huh? I won't. I will set the fire and do the cooking right away, said poor Tinnerly. Fire? The word for fire is hota, warma, burna, hoka, hoka, shouted Old Grimbolly. I will remember that. I will put a pot of oil over the hota, warma, burna, hopa, hoka, said Tinnerly slowly, making sure that she pronounced the new words correctly. This is not a pot. This is called the big belly. What mon? Sangkutin or roton. And the word for oil is movie, moi, moril. Remember that, or I will chop off your toes, said Old Grimbolly while sharpening his carving knife. Old Grimbolly was having great fun frightening the poor little girl. Start working now. When you finish, remember to feed my favorite cat. Meow, scratchy, furry, whiskery. After that, old Green Bolly went to bed to rest and soon fell asleep. As Tina Lee was roasting the chicken, Toby, the cat, jumped up and tried to eat the roasted chicken. Unfortunately, it accidentally knocks down the pot of hot oil into the stove. They started a fire in the kitchen and the fire was burning fast. So, Tina Lee ran straight to her master's bedroom and banged hard on the bedroom door. Old Green Bolly was woken up and slowly opened the door. Tina Lee was shouting desperately, Come quickly, my grandest, wealthiest, mightiest master of all empires in the whole wide world. Your meow, scratchy, furry, whiskery tries to eat the roasted chicken, yum yum, cluck cluck, and knocks down the big belly, what more, Sakutin, Oratom, and spills the mori into the stove and started a big hota hurma purna hoka. The hota hurma purna hoka is very very fast. Please help to put off the hota hurma purna hoka before it burns down the whole house. Tina Lee took a very long time to explain what had happened by using the new words so that she would not be punished. As she eventually finished speaking, the fire in the kitchen had spread into the dining room and the living room. Soon, the whole house was on fire. Old Green Bolly, little Tina Lee, and Toby the cat had only enough time to escape from the house. Old Green Bolly shouted desperately, Help! Help! Please help to save my house! Help! Fire! Somebody! Please! Help! However, nobody was willing to help him as he was a very mean bully. After all, his misfortune was caused by his own bad deeds. Dear friends, as you all may be aware of, there are many bullying cases happening in our society nowadays. Many of the victims are young students. In the most unfortunate instance, a precious life can be lost. From this story, we have learned that a bad deed will always bring about self-destruction. I hope all of you have enjoyed my story. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable judges, teachers, parents, and friends. Today, I would like to tell you a story entitled, Whose Son is Better? Not too long ago, there were once 4 women who lived in villages not far off at the foothill of Himalaya. They were Mrs. Snowy, Mrs. Strong, Mrs. Voice, and Mrs. True. Each of them had a son. One bright sunny morning, these 4 women went to a nearby river to wash clothes. They met each other as they were heading to the river bank. Each one had a heavy bucket of clothes on top of their heads. While walking, they were busily boasting to each other about their sons. First, Mrs. Knowing said, Hey, listen ladies, I'm not sure about you, but let me tell you about my one and only wonderful son. Beaming in her eyes, Mrs. Knowing continued, My son was born as a clever boy. He scored 100 marks for English, 100 marks for mathematics, 100 marks for science, 100 marks for... Basically, he scored 100 marks for all his examination papers. He's a straight A student, a genius, I must say. My son is brilliant indeed. At that time, the son of Mrs. Knowing came by. He was busily reciting our poems.
Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could afford Humpty Dumpty together again. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse and up the clock. The clock struck one, the mouse and down. Hickory dickory dock, tick tock.
Mrs. Snowy's son walked away without greeting his mother. Mrs. Snowy said, "Did you hear my son reciting the most popular ancient poems? I'm so proud of him. He's so learned in poetry and literature. Even the old scholars look up to him." Upon hearing what Mrs. Snowy had commented, Mrs. John quickly interrupted. "My son is good in martial arts." Sticking her chin up into the air while still holding on to the heavy bucket of clothes, Mrs. John continued, "No one in the village can defeat my son. With him around, I don't have to worry about anything. We are all safe at home." Then came the son of Mrs. Strong, who really had a martial look. The ladies could see that the son of Mrs. Strong was tall, masculine, with fierce black eyes. He was so engrossed in his kung fu that he didn't even bother that his mother was around. Ding, 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 ding. Shaw! Ding, 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 ding. Shaw! And off he went. Mrs. John said, "You see? Did you all see that? Did I lie to you? My son is really strong, and of course he is better than Bruce Lee." The third woman, Mrs. Voice, who could hardly wait to boast, laughed excitedly. "My son has a fantastic melodious voice. He's the best singer in the entire Himalaya and throughout the whole world. He can sing from the high key to the lowest note." Sure enough, soon the son of Mrs. Voice also came by, singing in a melodious voice. "I want nobody but you. I want nobody but you. How can I be another? I don't want any other. I want nobody. Mrs. Voice's son sang, waved, and danced away. His mother said, "Listen to my son singing. Isn't it beautiful? This is a gift from heaven just for him." When it came to the fourth woman, she remained silent, as quiet as a mouse. The other three women coaxed, "Madam, you have a son too, right? Come on, tell us about him." The fourth woman smiled full of delight and said, "Well, I suppose that all of your sons are really fantastic, but my son isn't as clever, or as strong, or as melodious as your sons. To me, he is just simply diligent, honest, and obedient. I am proud just for who he is." Finally, along came the son of Mrs. True. He ran up to his mother, kissed her, and hugged her. He then took over the heavy bucket of clothes from his mother and placed on top of his own head and said, "Mom, let me help you. You worked so hard on the family. I love you so much." The other three women looked at each other and dropped their gaze to the ground. For once, they were speechless, and shame filled their hearts. They could now see that the son who greeted his mother and expressed his love by helping to carry the heavy bucket of clothes was better than their own sons, who was busily showing off their respective talents and passed on without bothering to help. Now, whose son do you think is better? I'm sure it's far better than the son who honors and loves his father and mother, than a son who is so engrossed in success, talents, and giftings.